IEC 61856-3 specifies the format for creating Object Constraint Language Rules, OCL Rules. These are rules to validate the XML-based configuration files used in IEC 61850. The goal is interoperability. What does the world look like without OCL rules? When an SCL file is created in one vendor's tool, that tool has its own validation. Another vendor has their own tool with their own validation. Then comes the moment when those two SCL files have to talk to each other. Exchange, interoperate. Have you ever been in that situation? Tried to exchange SCL files between vendor tools and run into interoperability issues? Most engineers in this field have. It is a familiar problem. This is where OCL rules come in. The idea is straightforward. SCL files are still created in different vendor tools as before, but before exchanging them, run them through a common set of OCL rules. If both files pass, the chance of interoperability issues drops significantly. The rules can also be customized. Add your own. Tailor them to a project, a utility, a use case. This video walks through how to get started. What to download. How to run OCL rules locally using a Docker container as per one of the recommendations from IEC 61850-6-3. No prior Docker experience needed. Every step is shown. By the end, your first Docker container will be running and your first SCL files will be validated. For a Windows operating system, the tool to use is WSL2. WSL2 allows syscalls and direct interaction with the Linux kernel from inside Windows. A full Linux distribution running inside the Windows machine. You will run RiseClipse Docker container here, which includes the OCL rules. The first step is Docker Desktop. Head over to Docker and install Docker Desktop for Windows. Run through the installer, restart the machine when prompted, come back to continue. After the restart, open a command line prompt and install WSL. The command is simply WSL -- install. Hit enter. That installs WSL and includes a lightweight Linux operating system by default. Back in Docker Desktop, go to Settings, then Resources. Make sure Enable Integration with my default WSL distro is ticked. Back at the command line, the way into the Linux environment is the command WSL. That opens the Docker Desktop distro. Verify the Docker version by typing docker -- version. In this example, the version is 28.5.1. Now, the moment of truth. Type docker --run --hello-world. Hit enter. That is the first Docker container created and running. Want to see it? Open Docker Desktop. The container is listed. Things are working. Now to the OCL rules themselves. There are two main OCL rule projects available as Docker containers. RiseClipse is one, Compass SCL Validator is another. Both can be pulled from Docker Hub. This video uses RiseClipse, but the workflow is the same either way. Open the RiseClipse page on Docker Hub. On the right-hand side, there's a button, either copy the Docker pull command and run it in Windows command line, or press Run in Docker Desktop. Click it. Confirm the pull. Press Run. That is it. The OCL rules container is downloaded, ready to use. Next, decision. Which SCL files to validate? Make a note of the folder path. That path will be needed in a moment.
To run the OCL rules against the SCL files, another Linux distribution is needed. A working environment. Somewhere to type the validation command. Ubuntu is a good default, sitting alongside Docker Desktop's WSL. One runs the rules, one runs the command. The Ubuntu CLI sends the command, the Docker daemon executes it. The RiseClipse container validates the files. Install it with the command WSL --install --d Ubuntu. Hit enter. Once the download finishes, the system prompts for a new password. Enter one. Confirm it. Now inside the Ubuntu distro. One adjustment. There are now two WSL instances running, Docker Desktop and Ubuntu. The default needs to be Ubuntu, not Docker Desktop. To change it, WSL space dash dash set dash default space Ubuntu. From this point on, the command WSL opens Ubuntu by default. Switching between the Windows command line and the Linux command line becomes one keystroke. To confirm both distributions are running, WSL space dash L space V. Hit enter. Both distributions are listed.
Time to run the OCL rules against the SCL files. A set of commands is provided for this. The only thing to change is the folder path. The path to the folder where the SCL files are sitting. Replace the placeholder with the actual path. Copy the command. Hit enter. Here are the results. All SCL files passed, except one. The error message is specific. An unknown feature called CTL model was detected. It's inside a GSE control block, inside the file called invalid test. This particular mistake was inserted on purpose to demonstrate that the OCL rules do catch real problems. Open the file in Notepad++, search for CTL model. There it is, inside a GSE control block, a data type called control model, which, according to the standard, is not allowed in that location. Delete the offending element. Save the file. Run the validation again. Press the up arrow to recall the last command, or paste it in fresh. No more errors. Every SCL file has passed. Interoperability has improved by one fixed file. That is OCL validation, end to end. The Docker container is running. The validation has caught a real error and proved its value. Take it further. Change the rules. Add custom ones. Tailor the validation to a specific utility or project.